Hello, and welcome to Learn English from Story. Today, we will dive into the amazing life of Helen Keller, a girl who could neither see nor hear, yet changed the world with her courage, determination, and mind. Stay with us, as her story will inspire you and help you learn English along the way. The story of Helen Keller is one of the most powerful examples of courage and determination in human history. It teaches us that no matter how impossible life may seem, a person can rise, learn, and change the world. Helen Keller was born on June 27, 1880, in the small town of Tuscumbia, in the United States. At birth, she was a healthy, happy baby. She could see her parents, hear their voices, and respond with smiles and laughter. Her family adored her and believed she would have a bright future, filled with opportunities and happiness. But when Helen was just 19 months old, she became very ill. Her body was overcome by a high fever, and her parents grew deeply worried. Doctors could not clearly identify her illness. Some suspected scarlet fever, others thought it was meningitis. Days passed, and her life seemed in danger. Eventually, Helen survived. But slowly, her parents noticed something troubling. Helen no longer responded to sounds. She did not turn her head when someone called her name. She no longer reacted to light or movement. Over time, the heartbreaking truth became clear. Helen had lost both her sight and her hearing. In an instant, Helen's world had become dark and silent. For her parents, this was devastating. They could no longer communicate with her easily. They did not know how to educate her, or what her future might hold. Life, which had once seemed so ordinary, became a daily struggle. As Helen grew, her frustration became visible. She could not express herself fully. She pulled people toward objects she wanted, or acted out in anger. Sometimes she screamed. Sometimes she threw things. People around her began to think she would never learn or understand. Some believed she would remain trapped in confusion forever. But her mother, Kate Keller, refused to give up. She knew her daughter had intelligence and potential. She believed Helen could learn if given the right guidance. Kate searched for a teacher who could help, and eventually, she found Anne Sullivan, a young woman with her own struggles, came into Helen's life like a light in the darkness. She had experienced difficulties with her eyesight in childhood, and understood hardship firsthand, and did not pity Helen. She saw her intelligence, energy, and potential, and decided to live with Helen temporarily in a small cottage near the Keller home. She began to introduce structure and discipline into Helen's life. The child who had once resisted learning now faced firm guidance. Helen's early behavior was challenging. She often refused to cooperate. But Anne was patient, persistent, and determined. Anne began teaching Helen through a method of spelling words into her hand. Each letter of a word was represented by a movement of the fingers. When Helen touched an object, Anne spelled its name, D-O-L-L, for a doll, W-A-T-E-R, for water. At first, Helen could mimic the movements, but did not understand their meaning. Weeks of patient repetition passed. Then, one day, everything changed. Anne took Helen to a water pump. She placed Helen's hand under the flowing water, while spelling W-A-T-E-R into her other hand. Suddenly, Helen paused. She felt the water, and realized that the letters being spelled had meaning. The connection between language and the world clicked in her mind. In that moment, Helen experienced a profound breakthrough. She understood that words represented objects, actions, and ideas. The world, once confusing, now had meaning. She became excited, eager to learn, asking for the names of everything around her. From that day, Helen's learning accelerated. She studied words, sentences, and eventually learned Braille, a system of raised dots that allowed blind people to read with their fingers. Writing, which had once seemed impossible, became a way for her to express thoughts, feelings, and ideas. Speech remained a challenge because Helen could not hear. She learned by feeling the vibrations of speech with her fingers, observing the movement of lips and throat, and practicing tirelessly. Though difficult, she persisted. Her voice may have been imperfect, but her words carried power and meaning. Helen's education expanded. She attended schools designed for students with disabilities, learning from teachers and mentors who recognized her potential. But she did not stop at basic education. Helen aimed for higher education. She wanted to attend college, an idea that seemed impossible to many. Yet with Anne Sullivan's guidance, Helen prepared diligently, reading complex materials in Braille and following lectures spelled into her hand. Her perseverance paid off. Helen Keller was accepted into Radcliffe College. She became the first person who was both blind and deaf to earn a college degree, a historic achievement that amazed the world. After graduating, Helen did not choose a quiet life. She became a writer and speaker, sharing her story and spreading a message of courage, hope, and the power of education. Her autobiography, The Story of My Life, inspired millions. People read about her struggle and triumph, learning that obstacles do not define a person's determination does. Helen traveled the world, giving lectures and speeches, meeting presidents, kings, and world leaders, advocating for people with disabilities, and promoting education and equality. Even in countries far from home, audiences were captivated, not only by her achievements, but by her resilience, intelligence, and humanity. Anne Sullivan remained by her side, a constant partner in every journey. Their bond was extraordinary, a combination of love, mentorship, and deep friendship. Together, they demonstrated that guidance, patience, and belief in another person's potential could overcome the greatest challenges. Helen's advocacy work was extraordinary. She fought tirelessly for accessibility, education, and opportunity for all. She championed equality and inclusion, showing the world that limitations are not barriers, but challenges to overcome. Helen often reflected on life. She believed that darkness or silence is not permanent. Obstacles can become sources of strength. Difficulties can become paths to success. She said, "The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. True success is not measured by what we see, but by what we dream, imagine, and achieve." Even in her later years, Helen continued learning, writing, and speaking. She remained active and engaged with the world, believing that knowledge is a lifelong pursuit, and that effort and perseverance never stop. Helen Keller passed away on June 1, 1968, at the age of 87. She left behind a world inspired and transformed by her courage, determination, and achievements. Her story teaches a timeless lesson. Challenges are not the end, they are the beginning of growth, strength, and accomplishment. Helen Keller's life shows us that limitations are not walls. They are opportunities. Through her struggle and triumph, she reminds us that every person can rise above obstacles, reach their potential, and inspire others. No, darkness is too deep. No, silence is too absolute. With courage, persistence, and the support of those who believe in us, every person has the power to achieve greatness. Helen Keller showed the world this truth, leaving a legacy that continues to light the path for millions of people across the globe. Thank you for watching the story of Helen Keller. Her life reminds us that no challenge is too great when we have courage, hope, and determination. If you enjoyed this story and want to learn more English through real-life inspirational stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, every obstacle can become an opportunity to grow.